Good morning. At this time, I'll call to order the February 26th Subdivision and Development Appeal Board meeting to hear an appeal by the appellant of a decision by the Development Authority to refuse development permit application PL 202-50324 for a bed and breakfast permit at 220 Eagle Point. My name is Andre Gianandrea. I'll be the chair for this hearing. All questions and comments should be directed through the chair. I'm joined here today by fellow board members who I will ask to introduce themselves now.
Councillor Tanya Faubert.
Member of the Public, Bronte Valk.
Thank you. To the board and administration, are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
No, there's not.
I move that the board approve the agenda as presented or amended. All those in favor? Carried. Will our admin staff please introduce themselves at this time?
Ben Stiver, SDAB Clerk.
Eric Bjorgi, pardon me, Planning and Development Supervisor.
Madison DePater, Development Officer.
Thank you. Will the appellant please approach the podium and introduce themselves?
Neil,
Sorry, one moment. I just have to turn your mic on for you.
Okay, good now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, perfect. Mitch McNeil, I live at 219 Eagle Point.
No, sorry, this is for the appellant, so the member of 220 Eagle Point. That was their chance to speak.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for the. No. Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarity. This time I'll ask the audience, does anyone affected by this appeal object to any of the present board members hearing the appeal?
Here we go again. Mitch McNeil, I live at 219 Eagle Point, right next door. I appeal it because, well, for several reasons. One, that when they did a survey on parking. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
At this point, I don't think you heard the question. The question is, does anyone in the audience affected by the appeal object to any of the members of the board?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Totally fine.
No, I don't object, so.
And so if you have an objection with any of us hearing this appeal, now is your time to speak.
No, you're all wonderful individuals.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
We'll make it clear.
We'll walk through. We'll walk through the process. Before we begin, are there any preliminary matters the board needs to address?
That is, so there isn't, we have to address the member. There is a preliminary matter that was presented by a member of the public, but it's up to the board to decide whether or not they are an affected party to that matter.
And have we received any submissions to that effect?
Yes, it was, from Matthew Jenner.
Okay.
So it's now, you decide whether they are affected party or not.
Thanks.
That can also be, sorry, that can also be in the decision as well.
So did you
No, we can decide that in our written decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll outline the hearing process. The hearing process is as follows. First, the development officer will make a presentation, followed by an opportunity for the board to ask questions of clarification. Then the appellant will speak to the appeal, followed by an opportunity for the board to ask questions for clarification. I will then invite those in the audience who wish to speak to come to the podium and state their name, how they're affected, whether they are in favor, opposed, or speaking in a neutral position of the appeal. After all verbal submissions have been received, I will ask the clerk to read the names of those who have provided written submissions, identifying those in favor, those opposed, and those neither in favor nor opposed. After all the presentations have been heard, we may call a short recess. After reconvening, there will be an opportunity for the board to ask questions for clarification. Any person who has presented will then be given an opportunity to ask questions for clarification through the chair of others who have presented. An opportunity for closing comments will follow, first from administration, then from any other party who has presented, and finally from the appellant. I will then ask those who have presented if they feel they've had a fair hearing. Lastly, I will conclude the hearing. The board will meet in a closed session to review the evidence provided and provide a written decision within 15 days. Does the appellant have any concerns with the process or have been outlined? Does anyone in the audience who's an affected party have concerns with the process as outlined? Does everyone have that memorized? We're doing a quiz later. No? Okay. For the development officer, Ms. DePater, am I pronouncing it properly? Am I pronouncing your name properly?
Oh,
Ms.
correct.
DePater? Okay. Please proceed with your presentation at this time. Sorry. Everyone.
Okay, good morning. My name is Madison DePater. I am a development officer with the town of Canmore, and I will be presenting development permit application PL 2025-0324 at 220 Eagle Point for the board's consideration. So here's a bit of context for the application. So this is a development permit request for a new bed and breakfast that is located in the R1 residential district. In this district, B&Bs are considered discretionary, so each one is evaluated on a case-by-case basis. The proposal includes 2 guest rooms with up to 2 guests allowed in each room. Administration refused the application because it does not meet the separation requirements in the land use bylaw. So under section 8309, any new bed and breakfast must be at least 50 meters from an existing one. In this case, the subject property shares a property line with an already licensed bed and breakfast located at 219 Eagle Point, so it does not meet that criteria. As shown in this image, the property is located within the R1 residential detached district. The site is currently used as a detached dwelling. To the east and west are other detached homes, and the property immediately to the west is the existing licensed bed and breakfast. The broader neighborhood context is also visible here. There are additional detached dwellings across the street, and directly behind the subject property is an environmental district. This slide highlights the municipal development plan's direction related to accessory residential uses. The MDP notes that bed and breakfast establishments are supported as a way to broaden accommodation options and create opportunities for small-scale businesses. This high-level policy document provides important context for how we evaluate development proposals. The MDP helps guide our understanding of whether use is generally supported within the community. The MDP gives broad support for B&Bs, and the land use bylaw contains the specific rules that determine the decision, and I will go through this in the next slide. I'll also note that there is an area structure plan in place for the Eagle Terrace neighborhood, but it does not contain any requirements that speak directly to bed and breakfast developments. So here are the key sections of the land use bylaw that guided the review of the application. So section 3.1 outlines the standards and the permitted and discretionary uses for the R1 district. This section outlines that B&Bs are allowed as a discretionary use. We also looked to the definitions section to ensure the proposal fits the bylaw's description of a bed and breakfast. Section 13 defines a bed and breakfast as an auxiliary commercial use operated by the permanent resident of the dwelling and providing a maximum accommodation of 3 guest rooms to a maximum of 6 persons for a period of 14 days or less. Section 8.3 contains all the specific rules for B&B developments, including the separation requirement that's central to this application. Section 110 sets out the criteria we use when evaluating any discretionary use, and Section 114 outlines the development's authority's ability to consider variances. All of these sections guided our assessment and the final decision. So Section 8.3 provides the specific use regulations for B&B developments, including that B&B development shall not interfere with the rights of other residents to quiet enjoyment of a residential neighborhood. Regulations on minimum separation and overall cap of permitted B&Bs could interfere with this right. B&B developments shall be incidental in subordinate use to the principal residential use. This proposal does meet the requirement. The maximum number of accommodation rooms within a bed and breakfast shall be 3, with a maximum of 2 guests per bedroom. The applicant is proposing 2 guest rooms with a maximum of 2 guests per room. B&B development shall be limited to a maximum of 5% of the total number of occupied detached residences within the applicable census district. So 220 Eagle Point is located within the Census District 16B, and currently there are 6 remaining lots available. New bed and breakfast developments shall be separated from existing B&Bs by a minimum of 50 meters when measured from any point along the front property line. So as mentioned, the proposed B&B is adjacent to an already existing bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast shall not contain cooking or food preparation facilities in bedrooms or suites for use by guests, and the applicant is not proposing for the guests to use the kitchen. B&Bs shall have access through the principal dwelling unit and not solely through a separate private entrance. So the applicant did propose access through the primary dwelling and as well through a private entrance. Bed and breakfast shall provide front yard natural landscaping over a minimum of 50%, and this landscaping requirement has been met. And also as part of the application for a development permit, the operator of a bed and breakfast shall submit and sign a statutory declaration stating that they are the principal resident of the dwelling. So I'd like to note that in our report we mentioned that this was missing, however, it has since been provided, so the requirement is met. The land use bylaw requires that a total of 1 stall per guest room and 1 stall for the principal dwelling is provided. We would recommend that if the SDAB is considering approving the application, that a condition should be added that a more detailed parking plan is provided. The land use bylaw states that new B&B developments must be separated from existing B&Bs by a minimum of 50 meters, measured from any point along the front property line. So this separation does ensure that there's preservation of residential character, that there's privacy and quiet enjoyment for neighboring properties, and it does avoid over-concentration of commercial operations in a single area. So as mentioned, this subject property, 220 Eagle Point, it is directly adjacent to an already existing bed and breakfast at 219 Eagle Point. So the measured separation would be 0 meters, which is 100% below the required 50 meters, which would represent a full variance from the separation requirement. According to Section 114 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Development Authority may grant a variance to the standards and regulations of the bylaw as part of the development permit approval process, where there is deemed to be a public benefit or where there are site conditions constraining reasonable development. In this case, neither is met. There is no particular public benefit identified for this proposed bed and breakfast, and the property is a standard residential lot with no unusual site condition constraining reasonable development in this case. So administration does not support the proposed variance and has refused the application as a variance of this magnitude would defeat the purpose of the regulation, undermining the intent of the separation requirements. Administration reviewed whether the proposal meets the district regulations. Bed and breakfasts are a discretionary use in the R1 district, and this proposed development also requested a variance. We cannot approve the variance, and because the discretionary use depends on it, we are also unable to approve the use itself. So under Section 110.03, the Development Authority evaluates discretionary uses based on site suitability and potential impact on neighboring properties. In this case, the proposal does not meet the minimum 50-meter separation requirement, showing the site is not suitable. Additionally, neighbors raised concern about traffic, parking, the concentration of bed and breakfasts in the area, and lack of on-site management, all of which indicate potential negative impacts on adjacent properties. So options for consideration, the SDAB may consider the following options. So they may refuse the application, specifying the reasons for a refusal. They may approve the application subject to any conditions the SDAB deems necessary, or they can postpone the application pending submission of any additional information requested by the SDAB. So planning recommends that the Subdivision Development Appeal Board refuse PL 2025-0324, specifying the reasons for refusal. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to take any questions.
Thank you. Do any of the members of the board have questions for Mr. Bear? No? Thank you. The appellate not being present. I would now, at this time, invite anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the appeal to please approach the podium and provide your full name. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
My name's Mitch McNeil, and I live next door at 219 Eagle Point, so I'm the other B&B in the neighborhood. One of the things I do, there's a couple concerns. First of all, is parking, because the lots are kind of pie shape. Parking is very tight there. With their parking, since they turn their garage into bedrooms, parking is limited, and they can get 2 vehicles on the lot, but if one vehicle's in, they can't get the other one out. Also, there's been a couple times when I come home and I had to park about a block away from my house, even though I have a full garageway, but where they park, they overlap because it's of the tight space. Other than that, I just have trust in the process and see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to the appeal? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Corinne Salvi, and Olivier Gaillon is my partner. We live at 221 Eagle Point. We're on the other side of the property, and we're concerned, like our neighbor Mitch, about parking and noise. We've got a young child at home, and we're not comfortable with the number and types of visitors that this type of accommodation would bring. And I'm also surprised that this is a permanent resident, because we live right next door, and this family clearly doesn't live at 220, and they have 4 children, so I struggle to see how they can have 4 children and 4 guests in that house. And yeah, those are the more objective comments that I would have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the appeal? Morning.
Straight here for a moment. Good morning, my name is Brian Talbot. I live 2 houses south of the appellant's residence, and I'm speaking today for myself and my wife, Natalie Talbot. We do not support the appeal. The issue before the board is straightforward. This application fails to meet a clear, objective requirement of the land use bylaw, and there is no compelling planning basis to justify relief. First and foremost, the proposal does not comply with the mandatory 50-meter separation requirement in section 8.3.0.9. The evidence before the board confirms the subject property is directly adjacent to an existing licensed bed and breakfast, resulting in effectively a 0 separation. Administration has already concluded that this standard is not met and has recommended refusal on that basis. The purpose of the separation rule is explicit. It is intended to prevent the over-concentration of visitor accommodation uses within established residential neighborhoods, and to maintain residential character. Allowing 2 B&B operations immediately side by side would directly undermine that policy intent and create a precedent that weakens the effectiveness of the bylaw. While the board does have variance authority under the MGA, the test under 6873D sub 1 and 2 of the MGA essentially states that it is not simply whether a variance can be granted, but whether the proposed development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially affect the use and enjoyment of neighboring parcels. In this case, the adjacency of 2 commercial accommodation uses on a single residential frontage raises legitimate and reasonable concerns regarding parking, guest turnover, and cumulative neighborhood impact. This is a contravention of the above noted section of the MGA and is also offside with the Town of Canmore bylaw 2018-22 section 8.3.0.3, which states bed and breakfast developments shall not interfere with the rights of other residents to quiet enjoyment of a residential neighborhood. Importantly, this is not a situation involving unusual site constraints. or a demonstrated public benefit that would justify relaxation of the bylaw. Administration has noted that the parcel is a typical residential lot and no special circumstances have been identified that would warrant variance relief. In these circumstances, maintaining the integrity of the land use bylaw is the more defensible planning outcome. Approving a variance that eliminates the required separation entirely would effectively nullify the purpose of section 8.3.0.9 in this location and invite incremental erosion of the policy framework. For these reasons, the original refusal was reasonable and consistent with land use bylaw, and the appeal should be denied. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to the appeal, please come to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Talbot, 222 Eagle Point. I'm not as formal as my husband, so I drive a school bus as well as work at the gallery. And on our little loop, there are 3 school buses that go in the morning and 3 school buses that go in the afternoon. And our neighbor who is advertising the bed and breakfast as a ski chalet, I think is marketing it not only in the summer, but also in the winter. And because we live in a cul-de-sac, and school buses have a lot of tail swing, which means the back of the bus can swing out, that corner, that particular corner that we have to go to and stop to pick up the children at the end, can be quite precarious in the winter time. As it is. And the times that he has rented, I can't prove that it's a rental, but it's pretty obvious when he has rented it out, there's been an extra 2-3 vehicles, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're driving a school bus in that corner, you're missing those cars by mere inches. So I just wanted to put that out there, that even though it's only an extra 2-3 cars, when it's a pie-shaped cul-de-sac, there's not a lot of parking, and it can be quite tight. And that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to the appeal? Thank you. To our clerk, do we have any written submissions been received in addition to those contained in the package?
Nothing in addition that was contained in the package, but the written submissions were from Julie Bajonos and Mitch McNeil, Kristen Froese-Lowen and Robin Lowen, Michael Gutkiewicz and Karen Caverhill, Terry and Susan Kramer, Gabriel Olivier, Karine Salvi and Olivier Guyan, Brian and Natalie Talbot, and Matthew Jenner.
Thank you. Would the board like to take a recess at this time?
I'm good.
Good.
But if you guys need to.
No, I'm fine. Okay, at this time, I'll ask my fellow members if they have any clarifying questions for anything we've heard today. Okay. Does the board have any clarifying questions for administration? Does the board have any clarifying questions for the appellant? Does the board have any questions for any other person? To the audience, does any person who has presented today have questions for clarification of any other presenter? Does the development officer have any closing comments at this time? Thank you. Do the persons who have made representations today feel they have received a fair hearing? Thank you. This hearing is now concluded. As a reminder, the board will meet in a closed session to review the evidence presented and provide a written decision in 15 days of this hearing. No decision is binding on the board until it issues a written decision. The clerk will provide a notice of decision to the appellant and post to the town's website. Thank you.